Elena Brooks sat behind her desk at the accounting firm in downtown Atlanta, the hum of fluorescent lights above blending with the rhythmic click of her calculator. Numbers made sense. They obeyed logic. Her family didn't. At 27, she was an accountant with a promotion, a stable income, and a quiet determination to build something of her own. Yet to her parents, she was invisible. Every family dinner turned into a stage where her sister, Sierra, played the lead role. Their parents, Richard and Lillian Brooks, smiled for the crowd, raising their glasses to Sierra's latest purchase or impulsive venture. To them, Sierra was the dream daughter, the star they molded. Elena was the extra in their perfect production. At parties, Elena learned to stay near the wall. She'd smile politely while her parents bragged about Sierra's thriving boutique and her business sense. The irony burned because Elena had financed that so-called success. A $15,000 loan signed under her name sat heavy on her shoulders, a debt her sister never intended to repay. She remembered the day clearly, sitting across from a bank officer who'd glanced at her with pity. The signature she scrawled that afternoon wasn't just a financial decision, it was a surrender. "Family helps family," her father had said. "You're the responsible one." The responsible one. The phrase that felt like both a crown and a curse. Each month, $450 disappeared from Elena's paycheck, not toward her dreams, but toward her sister's. Sierra strutted through Atlanta's high-end boutiques, her social media a parade of champagne flutes, silk dresses, and rooftop selfies. "Living my best life," the captions read, while Elena's nights were spent buried in tax filings and spreadsheets. Her parents' admiration for Sierra was endless. "Your sister's got drive," Lillian would say, swirling her wine glass. "You could learn from her confidence." Elena would nod, fighting the heat rising in her chest. Confidence, she thought, didn't pay interest. But her silence kept the peace, for a while. At work, Elena's talent spoke for her. Her supervisor, Meredith Clark, called her into the office one Friday afternoon. "You've outdone yourself," she said, handing Elena a new title, senior accountant, and a raise. The numbers on the paper glowed, like proof that her effort meant something. Meredith smiled. "You've saved one of our biggest clients millions." The partners noticed. Elena left the office lightheaded with pride, clutching the promotion letter like a fragile secret. For the first time, she thought, maybe they'll finally see me. That evening, over coffee at her parents' home, Elena broke the news. "I got promoted," she said, voice calm but eager. Her father didn't look up from his phone. "That's nice," Richard murmured. "But did you hear Sierra's closing a new deal for her boutique? It's expanding." Lillian nodded, her face lighting up. "You should take notes, Elena. Your sister's a go-getter." The words landed like stones. Elena stirred her coffee slowly, fighting to hide the tremor in her hand. Her achievement, years of discipline, dismissed with a sentence. She forced a smile, but her chest ached. That night, as she walked past her parents' study, she heard them on speakerphone with Sierra. "You're doing amazing, honey," Lillian cooed. "We just wish Elena would step up like you." Richard chuckled. "She needs to contribute more to this family." Elena froze outside the door. Contribute more? She was already paying off Sierra's mistakes. Her throat tightened, and for the first time, resentment cracked through her patience. Their words weren't disappointment anymore. They were betrayal. She slipped away quietly, but something inside her shifted. She wasn't going to be their safety net forever. Elena sat in her apartment later that night, the city lights outside flickering through the blinds. The loan papers lay on her table, stark reminders of her submission. She traced her signature with a finger, then shut the folder. Enough. She opened her laptop, typed "accounting jobs in Boston," and hit search. The screen filled with listings, and a small, defiant smile tugged at her lips. Boston was 3,000 miles away, far enough to breathe. She calculated moving costs, rent, and salary projections. Numbers again made sense. She could make this work. Every job application she sent was a quiet act of rebellion. Her savings account was modest, but it was hers, separate from the one her parents knew about. Every month, she transferred $300 into it, a secret fund for freedom. She researched neighborhoods, Beacon Hill, South End, Back Bay. She even contacted a Boston realtor under the alias E. Brooks. Each email felt like a whisper of possibility, but doubt lingered. She could already hear her mother's voice. Family comes first, Elena. Her father's lectures about duty. The guilt would come, it always did. But this time, she promised herself she'd silence it with action. Her escape was no longer a dream. It was a deadline. The phone call came 2 weeks later. "Hi, this is Janet from Cooper and Bailey Accounting in Boston," the voice said. "We'd like to schedule an interview." Elena's breath caught. She agreed immediately, scribbling down the time. After hanging up, she leaned back, staring at the ceiling, letting the reality sink in. For the first time in years, someone saw her for her skills, not her obligations. She poured a glass of wine, raised it to herself, and whispered, "To new beginnings." Outside, thunder rolled over Atlanta, but Elena only heard the rhythm of change approaching. The invitation to her parents' 35th anniversary party arrived the next morning, embossed gold letters, elegant and hollow. Formal attire. The card read, as if she'd ever fit their version of perfection. Still, she went. That night, she walked into a ballroom filled with laughter, chandeliers, and too much perfume. Richard stood at the head of the room, glass raised high. "To 35 years," he declared, smiling at Lillian before turning to the crowd. "Some kids make you proud." His gaze slid to Sierra, radiant in sequins. "And others just take up space." Laughter rippled through the guests. Sierra's smirk gleamed under the lights. Elena's heart pounded, her fingers tightening around her glass. Then she set it down with a soft clink that sliced the silence. "Good thing I've got my own place, 3,000 miles away," she said, her voice calm and clear. The room froze. Richard's smile vanished. Lillian's hand trembled on her pearls. Elena turned and walked out, her heels echoing like liberation. Behind her, the ballroom dissolved into whispers. "Did she just say that?" someone muttered. "They pushed her too far," another whispered. Elena didn't look back. Each step toward the exit was a release. For years, she'd been their afterthought, their fallback, their cautionary tale. Tonight she became something else, free. She stepped into the cool night, the city hum merging with the beat of her heart. The air smelled of rain and freedom. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She just breathed. Behind her, Richard's voice called, sharp and commanding. "Elena, come back here." But she kept walking, the sound of her heels fading into the dark. By morning, the whispers had traveled faster than the music had ended. Atlanta's social circles loved a scandal. But Elena stayed quiet. She made coffee, opened her laptop, and continued applying for jobs. She didn't need to defend herself. Truth had a way of surviving. Her phone buzzed with messages, half pity, half judgment. One from her cousin Dana read, "Heard about last night. Bold move. You sure you didn't overreact?" Elena ignored it. She didn't owe explanations. For once, she was living by her own math, one equation at a time, all variables under her control. Then came the storm. A notification blinked on her phone. Sierra Brooks, new post. The caption read, "Some people think they're above family. Selfishness destroys everything." The comments were cruel, echoing Sierra's narrative. "I can't believe she'd humiliate her parents like that. Ungrateful much?" Elena scrolled through the lies, her hands trembling. Sierra had twisted the story. Again. Her years of silent endurance turned into ammunition for Sierra's pity campaign. For a moment, Elena considered posting the truth, but then she stopped. Don't fight a lie with noise, she thought. Build a life that makes it irrelevant. The next morning, a letter slipped under her apartment door. The handwriting was her mother's, neat, deliberate, and painfully familiar. "Elena, your behavior at the party was unacceptable. You owe us an apology. This family cannot heal if you keep separating yourself. Remember, we raised you. You have responsibilities here." The words dripped with guilt, not love. Responsibilities, Elena muttered under her breath. Like funding your favorite child. She folded the letter neatly, slid it into a drawer, and shut it, a symbolic burial. Her parents' version of love had always come with conditions. She was done signing those contracts. That afternoon, she met her colleague, Naomi Fields, at a quiet coffee shop downtown. Naomi had a way of seeing through facades. "They tried to shame you, didn't they?" she asked gently, stirring her latte. Elena nodded, telling her everything, the years of debt, the comparisons, the party. Naomi listened, silent until the end. "You did the right thing," she said finally. "Toxic families rewrite stories to stay the heroes. Let them. You're building your own." Her calm tone steadied Elena's pulse. For the first time, someone saw her not as broken, but as brave. The days blurred into planning. Elena canceled subscriptions, sold furniture, and lived off oatmeal and determination. Every dollar went into her Boston fund, now over $4,000. Her landlord noticed her packing boxes. "You leaving town?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "For good," she said, sealing a box. "They'll regret losing you," he replied. She smiled faintly. "No," she said. "They'll pretend they didn't." Each small act, every box taped, every item sold, became an act of independence. She was dismantling not just her apartment, but the version of herself they'd built. 6 weeks later, as she was labeling boxes, her phone buzzed.
Sierra.
Elena almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "I need to talk," the text read. Against her better judgment, she agreed to meet. Sierra's condo, once the crown jewel of their parents' praise, was now a mess. Empty wine bottles, bills stacked like dominoes. "It's over," Sierra said flatly. "The boutique's gone. I'm broke." Elena stood there, the irony bitter and sharp. "You want money," she said softly. Sierra didn't deny it. "Just for a while. You've always been the stable one." The words made Elena's chest tighten, the same manipulation, repackaged as desperation. Elena tried to help for one afternoon. Together they sorted receipts, unpaid invoices, and boxes of unsold clothes. Sierra grew defensive. "You've always had it easy," she snapped. "No one expected anything from you." Elena's laugh was quiet but cutting.
Easy?
"I paid for your education, your loans, your failures." Sierra froze. For a moment, truth flickered in her eyes. Then she whispered, "I was jealous. You always seemed like you had it together." Elena waited for more, maybe an apology. It never came. Instead, Sierra said, "You're really not going to help me, are you?" Elena shook her head. "Not this time. You'll have to save yourself. You're abandoning me," Sierra hissed, her voice trembling between anger and panic. Elena reached for her coat, her voice calm. "I'm not abandoning you, Sierra. I'm just done carrying you." She left the apartment without another word. The elevator ride down felt endless, her reflection in the mirrored walls both strange and familiar, a woman finally choosing herself. Outside, the winter air bit her cheeks, but it felt clean. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Sierra, but Elena didn't read it. She blocked the number, shoved her hands into her pockets, and walked away. Back in her apartment, she sat among half-packed boxes. Her flight to Boston was booked. Her new job was confirmed, $97,000 a year, senior accountant, benefits, and a signing bonus. The future was tangible now. She ran her hand over the smooth surface of her laptop, the glow of the offer email reflecting in her eyes. Sierra's collapse didn't bring satisfaction, only clarity. Her downfall isn't my redemption, Elena thought. My peace is. She closed the laptop, leaned against the wall, and let the silence settle. Not heavy this time, but full of promise. 2 months after the party, Richard's email arrived. "Your behavior was disgraceful. You humiliated this family in front of our friends. We deserve an apology." He wrote as though his own cruelty had vanished into smoke. Elena read it twice, then deleted it. Her father's pride had always been louder than his love. Minutes later, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, her mother stood there, pale and trembling. "Elena, please," Lillian whispered. "Let's fix this. Come back home." We can start over. Elena shook her head gently. There's nothing to fix, Mom. I'm done carrying everyone's expectations. The door closed softly, final and irreversible. That same week, the Boston firm sent her official contract. $98,000 annual salary. A signing bonus. Full relocation support. Elena printed the offer, her hands steady this time. She signed it, the pen gliding like liberation. She texted Naomi, who arrived later with her laptop and 2 lattes. Let's make this airtight, Naomi said. Together they reviewed paperwork, mapped timelines, and scheduled flights. You're going to crush it, Naomi said, smiling. Elena smiled back, realizing she believed it too. She wasn't running anymore. She was rising. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics. Movers scheduled, furniture sold, keys returned. Her landlord, watching her hand over the final payment, said softly, "You're really doing it." Elena smiled. "I've been ready for a long time." At home, Naomi helped her pack, crossing off each task from a list. Rent in Boston, utilities, groceries. Naomi read aloud, grinning. "You've got this planned like a tax audit." Elena laughed. "Control freak, remember?" "Survivor," Naomi corrected. The word lingered. It felt right. Elena taped the last box shut and wrote one word on it. Future. The night before her flight, Elena stood in her empty apartment. The walls held the ghosts of her old life, exhaustion, duty, silence. She whispered a quiet goodbye to none of it in particular. Her phone buzzed one last time. "Mom," the screen read. She hesitated, then hit block. No drama. No closure speech. Just peace. She poured herself one final glass of wine, toasted to the empty room, and smiled. "To new beginnings," she murmured, the words echoing softly. Outside, Atlanta's skyline glittered. Beautiful, but no longer hers. Morning light cut through her window like clarity. She wheeled her suitcases through the airport, heart calm, hands steady. At the gate, she texted Naomi, "Boarding now." "Proud of you," came the reply. As the plane lifted, Elena looked out the window, the city shrinking beneath clouds. Atlanta was a mosaic of memories, expectation, pain, and the quiet rebellion that saved her. She leaned back, exhaling. For the first time in years, the weight was gone. No guilt. No noise. Just sky. Boston welcomed her with gray skies and brisk wind, a kind of beauty she hadn't known she needed. Her new apartment was small, with bare walls and a window overlooking brick-lined streets in South End. She dropped her bags, ran a hand along the cool surface of the counter, and smiled. "Mine," she whispered. The space echoed, not empty, but full of possibility. She unpacked the essentials, a coffee mug, a laptop, a framed photo from college, and sat on the floor, letting the sound of distant traffic lull her into peace. Her first day at the firm was electric. A new office, new faces, a new rhythm. The managing partner, Michael Lane, shook her hand warmly. "We've been waiting for someone with your precision," he said. She smiled, nerves settling into confidence. By noon, she was knee-deep in client files, solving problems others had missed. The day flew by in numbers and quiet triumphs. When she left the office, the city lights reflected off the Charles River, painting the skyline gold. Elena paused, taking it in. Freedom, she realized, didn't roar. It hummed quietly, like peace. Meanwhile, back in Atlanta, Sierra's empire crumbled completely. The boutique liquidation became public gossip. Creditors came calling. The condo she'd once flaunted on social media went up for sale. Lillian and Richard, desperate to preserve their image, took her in. Their circle of friends thinned. Invitations to galas disappeared. The Brooks family name, once polished, was now whispered with pity. Elena didn't revel in their fall. She simply let it happen. The truth had a way of balancing its own books. One evening, weeks later, her phone lit up with an unknown number. She didn't have to guess who it was. "Elena, please," her mother's voice pleaded through voicemail. "Call us. Your father isn't well. We miss you." Elena listened, expression unreadable. She deleted the message, without hesitation. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. You couldn't heal where you were never seen. She had spent her life buying love with compliance. Now she was investing in peace, and peace demanded boundaries. Boston became her sanctuary. On weekends, she wandered Beacon Hill's narrow streets, coffee in hand, discovering quiet bookstores and bakeries tucked between brownstones. At night, she'd sit by her window, city lights flickering like new constellations. Her work thrived, her spirit steadied. No one compared her to anyone. No one asked her to fix their chaos. Elena finally belonged, not to her family, not to a narrative, but to herself. Freedom didn't look like rebellion anymore. It looked like calm. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. If you value stories of respect, dignity, and justice, please subscribe. It means more than you know, and it lets me keep sharing the lessons